What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm your host, Liana, and today we are talking about therapy. And before you close this episode, first of all, you saw the title. You knew what you were getting yourself into. Secondly, before you close it, that urge, that desire, you had to shut it down, that probably means you need to stay. Okay? Yeah, I said it, and I have no shame in that. But anyways, y'all, I'm back in therapy. I finally found a therapist that works. Let me clip in some applause right now because it was a journey, and I really want to talk about that today because I'm someone who has believed in therapy. I went to school for it, and I had a really hard time finding a therapist that works for me. And I know people who don't have the same background or knowledge or belief that it's going to work, or time and energy to invest into finding the right therapist. It's really easy to just push it on the back burner. What I want to talk about today because it's so helpful. And I know how much value I have received from getting therapy, and I want that for other people too. I think there's a lot of hard things in my life, like life be lifing right now like no other. I always say life be lifing, but like life is lifing like no other. Like we're on boss level of lifing right now, and we needed some extra support to get through it. And I think there should be no shame about therapy. For some reason, along the lines, we had it in our brain that like we have to be tough enough to like figure out our emotions and our thoughts and whatever else is going on in life. And we've glamorized dealing with our pains and hardships and all of that stuff on our own, and like not showing anybody that we're going through a hard time, not showing our weakness. And I'm sure that's a survival technique that's been passed down from, ancestors and ancestors over time. But the more I learn about the brain, the more I'm realizing how important it is to just like working out your body in the gym. You need to do things for your mind as well. And I'm just really happy that I'm only 27 and I'm figuring this out, because that means I have the rest of my life to live in a healthy way, in healthy relationships, making healthy choices. So I just really want people to hear me when I say therapy is nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's something that's there to help you in your brain and then your overall value of life and all the other relationships in your life as a result. Because I know when I'm not in a good place, not only am I being affected and am I going through a hard time, the people around me are too. Like not directly, but our relationships suffer because I am not in a good place to fill those cups. And I have to, work on myself and focus on myself first, or else those relationships suffer. And I think I see that a lot around me right now. And it's no shade at all. Like, there's so many people in my life who, it's not that they're against therapy, but they don't think it's for them for whatever reason. And then they're suffering in silence and dealing with all these really hard things in life that they don't have to be so heavy and so hard if you get some support and learn to deal with it in a healthy way. And so that's really what I want this episode to be, is like a public service announcement, saying that therapy's for the cool kids, y'all. All the cool kids are doing it. Get you a therapist. If you need some help, give me a call. I'm there. But to kind of talk about how important I think therapy is, I feel like I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. With therapy, it's so important that you find the right therapist. And to really paint a picture of how important it is that you don't give up if you do not find the right one right away, I'm going to share my journey with therapy. And I didn't even realize how long and how extensive it was until I sat down and started to really dig through my journey of therapy. And to be where I'm at now with it, I am so happy and I know it works. So I really want people to get comfy cozy or whatever you're doing, and keep an open mind during this episode. And hopefully you hear it was really a journey, and I understand that's probably why a lot of people don't use therapy or go to therapy, because of the struggle of finding the right fit for you. And especially when you're in a place to want to do the work, that window, and at least for me in the past, has been really small. We live in a culture of fast, 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 and like if you don't get something right away, like it hits the back burner. At least that's how it goes for me. And so it was a journey to stick through therapy and find the right fit. So I want to share this story and this journey with you in hopes that it inspires you to, if you've already tried therapy and didn't find the right fit, try it again, keep giving it another shot. Or if you are wondering or thinking about trying therapy and getting started, hopefully this could be your push in the right direction. I also want to say, I don't think therapy, it has to be for everyone. I think it can be for everyone, and I'm just really trying to raise awareness around that. Even if your therapy looks different than like the natural going into the office. For me, I choose to do therapy virtually, because I like being in my own comfy space, and like for some reason in the back of my mind, like say it went south and I just like was not feeling it, I could just shut the computer. I wouldn't ever do that, but if I wanted to, I could. And so that's what I like. I feel like I have more control over my environment when I do therapy from home, and I feel a lot more comfortable and secure and opening up and reflecting and like digging into those wounds that I've kept shut for so long. So virtual therapy could be a really cool thing for you. It's super easy, takes the burden of having to find time in the day to go to a therapist, especially if you work a standard 9 to 5. Virtual therapy can be a really good option for you. So my therapy journey started back in college, actually, after I went through like a really hard breakup. And for a long time, I was really embarrassed to even say that I had to go to therapy for a breakup. I just feel, I don't know, I felt so much shame. I was just dealing with a breakup and everything that goes along with that. And I was like ashamed that I was so hurt by it. And I was showing that emotional side because like I wanted people to see me as put together and happy and unaffected by things. And I don't know why I had that mindset. Like when I was younger, I like never wanted people to see me in my weak state. And I guess that all goes down to being like vulnerable. And then like the older I got, I realized everyone was dealing with it, and I'm like, why aren't we talking about it? Why aren't, like, some people are, why are we like normalizing just being sad sometimes and being okay and going through a breakup? But I felt like there was just such a push, or maybe it was just the pressure I put on myself, and I just could not do it. And I was just so sad. I just remember being so sad and like so hurt, and I felt like I was annoying my friends because I kept saying the same thing. Also, my friends like had seen me in that relationship fighting over and over and over again, so to them it was probably like, duh, this was going to happen, like this is good for you. But for me, like, obviously I wasn't in that same mindset as them. Like, hindsight is 2020. I didn't have the perspective that they could see it at a zoomed out lens. I was very zoomed in, and I just felt like I could not get over it, and I felt like I was bothering my friends, and I was saying the same things, and they were so kind and so patient and never made me feel like just get over it. But I felt like I was being annoying, and I don't like to be a person that goes to people for help. I like to be the person people come to, and I pride myself in that a lot. So like when I was in those low parts, and it was really hard for me to be vulnerable. Like I hated that. Like that was like honestly some of the like lowest parts of what I remember my adulthood. And it wasn't necessarily only the breakup. Because of the breakup, like that was the catalyst of it, but it was being vulnerable and like not being strong and having to depend on other people. Like I didn't like that at all. And so the idea of getting therapy, like I've been always open to it because I was going to school for it, and I thought because I was going to be a therapist, like I can't get help myself, which is so twisted and backwards, but that's where my mind was at. And I was like, you know what, there's no shame in therapy. Let me just go find somebody I can talk to that is not in my circle, doesn't know me, doesn't deal with me every single day, and just talk to them about that. And maybe like hearing somebody from an outside perspective will like help me. And so I finally find therapy. My mom helped me find a therapist, and I felt like the process for me felt overwhelming, so I'm so happy and thankful that my mom was there to help me with that. But I felt embarrassed even telling my therapist why I was there. Like, and I felt she was really nice about it, and she was so kind, and like I felt comfortable talking to her, and honestly it was just nice to talk to someone. I think I instantly like cried right away when she asked me like one question, because I was just such an emotional wreck at that time. But I remember she was like an older white lady, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it was hard for me to feel like she could relate to me. I'm like, and I know that, I don't know if that's wrong or not, but I just felt that's like one thing I remember feeling, and I think it kind of helped, it stopped me from wanting to open up a little bit more. And I think that's important to say, because it's not that she's bad at her job, it just meant that like she wasn't the right person for me to open up to, and that is okay. You're not going to want to open up to everyone. Like, that's why finding the right therapist is important. I got to a point where she felt like we were okay. I didn't really know, and I was just kind of over the therapy. Like, it was my first time with therapy, so I didn't really know, and I just felt like I didn't need to go back. Like, we decided like maybe a break and see how things are going, and then like maybe come back later, and I just never went back. She was really sweet. There was no like bad endings. Like, I just think life moved on. I just figured I was going to start working on it on my own. I definitely was not in a place to stop therapy looking back, but it just, I don't know, I did not continue. And graduation happened. Eventually I moved to Chicago eventually, and if you follow my journey already, you would kind of know a little bit about how that went. And when I first got to Chicago, I remember like it was super exciting, but I was still adjusting, and I was really sad. And I thought, it's just me moving away from home. I just have to adjust and da da da. And like it went in waves for a while. I definitely realized I was isolating myself a lot during that time. I was doing things like I would say I'm sick because I just wanted to be in bed. And now looking back, I was really depressed. And again, it goes back to that time that like I don't want to be weak, because when I finally got over that breakup, and that initial pain and like heartache that goes with it, and like I started feeling happy again and like being optimistic about the future, I felt so relieved. I'm like, oh, thank God I got out of that, because that was a really scary time for me. I had never felt that low before, and getting out of that and becoming happy again, I was like, okay, whew, that was a close one, because I was scared like that was never going to end. Like, that's how deep I would feel it. And I was like, I hate this feeling. I hate being like this as anyone else. But, like, I feel like I'm a really upbeat, happy person. So when I felt that way, it scared the shit out of me. And so when I started to feel happy again, I was like, this is good. And then I moved to, after graduation, like, I think reality of the rest of my life started to set in. And so then naturally I went into another lull. And because of how scared I was of being that sad like before, I did not want to experience that at all. So I started to just really like numb myself in every possible way I could figure out. And I got to Chicago, and I was like, there was a bit of excitement. I was really excited, but then I was also still feeling those depressive feelings and that overwhelmness and just like that transition time. So I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I didn't know what was going on. And for me, like, I like to have a game plan for the most part. I overanalyze things. And so I get to Chicago. I'm trying to like be happy and excited about the situation at hand, because I am, but then there's also a huge part of me who is really sad, and I've been like trying to mask it. So then I started to realize I was isolating myself a lot. I would lie to my friends at the time and say that I was sick because I just wanted to be alone and in my room, and I'm sure they knew. I'm sure they caught on to it, but like I just couldn't tell them how I was feeling. I remember feeling just like so lost, I think is like what it was. Like I'm just lost. Like I feel like I'm not happy. I'm just not happy with like a lot of different aspects of my life. I was processing a lot from like the transition from college into like my new life that I was trying to create for myself, and I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. And like I just feel like there was a lot of things that were up in the air, and it was a really difficult time for me. Yeah, so I was super isolating myself, and then that made me feel even worse because I felt like friendships were going on and people were being happy around me, and that's how it should be, that's how it's meant to be. But when you're in a depressed state like that and you're already like in a low spot, it just like feels like salt in the wound. And now looking back at it, now that I have better tools, now that I'm more aware of myself and my natural and my feelings and my emotions, I definitely could have, I wish I would have spoken up about how I was feeling sooner. And I feel like the way I was acting was not okay towards my friends either. Like, being a sad person, being a grumpy person, being like a depressed person is okay, but like I feel like the way I was it was affecting the people around me. And like there were comments that were made like, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you, and we just don't know how to act around you, because when you come home and you're like in a bad mood, we don't know how to feel, like the energy shifts, and like things like that really stuck with me. And I I feel kind of conflicted about it, because I feel like on one way, like I needed to hear that. It was very important for me to hear, because I do have a big presence. Whether it's good or bad, I have a big presence, and that's something that I know and I'm stepping into, and I'm owning a lot more now. I would, of course, always want it to be a positive experience if anyone's around me, and a positive presence, but some days I'm not happy, and sometimes life be lifing, and I'm not in a good mood, and I'm gonna be in a bad mood. And you want to know what? It's okay to be that way, and it's okay to step into the world having a smile on my face. I don't have to force anything if I'm not feeling it. But I also need to be aware of that and my presence that I'm putting on other people, because it's not okay to bring somebody else down because I'm not feeling okay. And I was never intentionally doing that at all, but like I had to be more aware of myself in my surrounding, in my environments, and like the influence I have on other people. And I just didn't understand that at the time. And now looking back at it, it also was kind of triggering, and it was kind of a shitty thing to hear from your friends, because that actually, in the moment, made me close up even more and not ever want to share, or like feel like I was not okay to express myself in anything except happy. I remember like doing the complete opposite after I heard that. I was like, okay, well then I'm never gonna be sad or like grumpy around. I'm gonna be ultra happy all the time, and like I would numb myself so I could just be happy and like forget about my sad feelings, because I felt like that wasn't accepted at that time. It was a weird time in life, but ultimately I decided out of that, I was like, I just feel like therapy is a good idea. Like I think my coworkers were talking about it, and like I looked at my coworkers at the time, I was like, oh, they got it together. Like they are so smart and well-rounded, aware of their emotions, and they go to therapy. Like I want to be like that. So Mather Mamas, if you're listening to this, you definitely inspired me to get back into therapy, so thank you. And so then I tried to get a therapist again, and I think it was like the 6 free programs that we got through our AmeriCorps stipend, or AmeriCorps job at the time, and the therapist was an awful fit. Like, first of all, she showed up 15 minutes late to our meeting, and then she was eating her lunch in the meeting, while the first time I met her, she didn't apologize for being late, and I was just, like, pissed off, and I was like, I never want to be rude to people, but I wanted to be so fucking rude to her in that moment, because I was like, ma'am, this is our first time meeting. I'm finally getting the courage to get therapy again, and you have the nerve to not only come late, but to be eating your lunch while you're late and not even apologize or offer me any. Like, it was a lot of feelings, and I was just pissed. I was like, you know what? Therapy's not for me. So then I shut the door on therapy again, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to find other ways to do this. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to journal. I'm going to talk about it to my friends and my family. And, like, that worked for a while, but then again, I felt that burden. Like, it's great to talk to your community. It's great to be able to rely on the people around you, but it is not their job to help you through that. Like, I didn't want to rely on them that much or put that much pressure or burden on them when they're also going through all of their own stuff as well. So I really had like an interesting time with that. Eventually I moved into my own apartment, and I wanted to try therapy again. This was like, I would say 6 months after this. These are like 6-month intervals at this point, and I try BetterHelp, and I get paired with this guy. He was super cool. Like, he was into astrology. He had like this beard like this, and he was like super spiritual. And so I really liked that, because I was like, okay, I want someone I can connect to like that. as well, and he liked astrology. If y'all know me, you know I like astrology, so I was like, this is perfect. And during our sessions, I just felt like he was talking way more than I was talking. Like, way more. The whole time I was just sitting there and listening to him. And I didn't know if that was... I didn't know if that was normal or if that's what I wanted. I didn't feel like I was getting too much out of the situations. I just didn't feel like it was a good fit for me. And I did like 4 sessions with him, and then I ghosted him. And I feel really bad about it, but I didn't know at the time how to tell a therapist that I did not want to continue our relationship. Like, I knew how I could say it, but I just couldn't get myself to say it, and it was a lot easier to just not book another session with him and not respond to his messages. And that is not what I would want to do moving forward. Because I understand, like, it's a job, they're offering a service, and if it's not a good fit for me, then I'm not going to continue with it. Why would I do that? But at the time, I didn't have the kahunas to do that, okay? I didn't have those boundaries set. I just thought, like, oh, it's summer, I was happy, I was busy, I was fine. So then fast forward to the situation right before I moved to Chicago. I was, like, really feeling anxiety again. I was feeling this pressure. I was feeling like my life is falling apart and crumbling again. If you've been listening to episodes, you know exactly why that was happening. But I wanted to get a therapist because I wanted to try to, like, make sure I'm not running away from situations just to avoid pain. And if it was something that I could work through, I wanted to, like, sit down, like, do the work through it, and give it my best shot, because I want to grow. Ultimately, I want to get better and 1% better every single day in every aspect of my life. So I knew that I had to try to do something that I knew would work, and that was getting a therapist. And so I found this woman who was a black woman, and I was so excited about that because I really was looking for someone I could connect to. And this was also through BetterHelp. And I don't know how the system works on their end, so I do want to leave room for, like, grace for her. But she stood me up on our first session, and that was at a time where I was, like, really ready to do the work. I was really looking forward to therapy. I was, like, in a really sad place and was really hoping to find somebody to talk to about things. I was talking to my sisters a lot and my best friend, and my mom, but, like, again, like, I think it's important that you speak to somebody outside of the situation who is trained to have smart, healthy tools to help you grow. And I want to see a different perspective. So that's why I think therapy is important as well. So she stood me up, and I was like, wow. I was really trying to get a therapist this time. And I was really trying to do the work, and that's really annoying. And then she sent me all these messages after, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no. Like, I just had a bad taste in my mouth. I was annoyed of it. Could have responded. I didn't. So I ghosted her too. And that was both through BetterHelp. Actually, the lady eating her breakfast was through BetterHelp. So was the first guy, and then the lady who stood me up. So I think BetterHelp has its benefits that you can do, like, 6 free sessions through your work a lot of the time. I think that BetterHelp is accessible to a lot of people, and I think that's great, especially for people who are just trying to get their foot in the door with therapy, or even people who have been through therapy and they just need a quick check-in with somebody for, like, 6 weeks. I think BetterHelp has its purpose, and I don't think it's the worst thing on the planet, but I would never use it again, personally, because of the back-to-back bad experiences that I had. But I don't want to say that to deter someone else from using it, because maybe you'll find a great therapist fit there, and maybe it is exactly what you're looking for. For me, I just had really bad experiences with it, minus the guy. He wasn't really bad. It was just not a good fit. And yeah, so I personally didn't want to go through BetterHelp. So then I looked for another therapist that was a black lady, and it was $175 a session, which I fully support and would love to pay her, because she's totally deserving of that. If I was in a better financial place to, like, feel like, yeah, I can dish away $175 a week on therapy. I just feel like it was not a good fit. That $175, it was no insurance, and it just wasn't, I couldn't talk myself into making it sound like that was worth it. So I ultimately did not go through with that therapy. So then I went through that big, huge, explosion of my life. Moved back home to Minnesota. For a while, it felt really good because I was around family. And then we are up to the present point where we are now. I was already wanting to get a therapist and start working through things, but then life increasingly started to like put that pressure on me, okay? Like I was ready to crack, like, and I would say like at the beginning of April, like my life got pretty hard. I'm not going to talk about that on here, but I just could not do it on my own. And I'm so thankful that I finally found the right therapist. One of my friends introduced me. She was like, you can get state insurance since you opened your own business and you're not making a ton of income yet. Like, you can't pay for private insurance. You can get state insurance. And I had never thought about that. And I was like, hell yeah, I will, because I still pay taxes. So yeah, I'm going to cash in on that state insurance. And through that, I get therapy covered. And I am so thankful because through that, I was able to find the best therapist. And I say that because it's not exactly what I thought I needed. Like, it's not a black woman, but I'm still getting exactly what I need from it. And maybe, as I go through my therapy journey, that's something that I'll look into later on down the road. But this therapist is perfect because she really gives me the ropes to take therapy wherever I want it to be. She is like, she lets me guide where we go and what we talk about each day. If there's days that I need her to take the ropes and like lead it more, she can, but she's just very open and she lets you lead and direct it exactly where you want to go. And then she's just there to listen to you, validate your feelings, and then point out a different perspective to help you see things in a different light that may be helpful for you. And that is exactly what I was looking for. And I have never felt so understood and so heard and so clear. I feel like I'm able to like connect things and like themes in my life that I hadn't been able to before. And now, because I was able to do that, I can understand myself in the present a lot better and understand why I do the things that I do and why I react the ways that I do, and I have feelings about things that I do. And all of it just makes more sense. And none of that stuff goes away, but I'm able to understand it. And that understanding is peace. And that peace that I have now allows me to be more productive and healthier in every relationship in my life and set better boundaries for myself, and what I actually want out of life and what I like, and set better boundaries that will help me get to the lifestyle that I really want to embody every day. So I just really think that therapy is a beautiful thing. It can look different for everyone, and if you're thinking about therapy, I really hope you do it. I hope you give it a shot, because it's really just an investment in yourself. And again, it's like what I was saying earlier. It's just like how we work our bodies out every day. We eat healthy and we do all these things in order for our body to be strong, healthy, and like to get us through each day. We have to also pour that same energy into our brain. Our brain is a muscle as well, and what you work at it, like it gets stronger and it gets easier. And the things that you avoid and you suppress, like it's gonna come up eventually. I learned that the hard way. All of these things come up eventually. Suppressing emotions and trauma is only going to last for so long, and it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be scary. Like, find somebody you trust, find a therapist that you trust and that you connect well with and you feel comfortable doing that work with. It's going to be work. It's not going to be easy. I cry in every single session, but it's therapeutic to release those emotions. And I think it's just a healthier way to live. And if you really don't think therapy's for you, I respect that too. I don't want anyone to feel forced to do therapy. I just want you to see that it's a huge benefit to you, and it's a benefit to your future and all your relationships in your life. Like, everything is connected and affected by therapy, or like by the way we deal with emotions and our traumas, even if you don't see it. And so my point of saying that is, if you don't think therapy is for you, you really don't. You've given it a lot of tries and chances and tried different therapists and different styles of therapy as well. I respect that, and I really I trust that you know yourself more than I would know yourself. But like, find something though that you can release those feelings and those traumas that you pushed away for so long. do the work and release it so you can live a healthier, happier future. Because I think we all can have that, and we just have to release and keep moving forward, and doing it in a healthy way. So that's all I have for y'all today. If you want to talk about therapy or just talk about like potentially how to like sign up, where to start, where to look, I'm not an expert, but I'm willing to hold your hand during this because somebody did that for me. And if it wasn't because of that, I wouldn't have gotten back into therapy, and I wouldn't have been where I am now. So I would love to pass that forward or pay that forward and do that for you if you want some help looking for a therapist, or even just talking about like how therapy works, what it looks like, what a session looks like. At least in my experience, I'd be happy just to kind of ease your nerves, if that at all is a thing. So thank you all so much for listening. This is a deep one. I have some really fun ones coming up, but I think this is important, and that's what this whole podcast is about. It's about balance of talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of life. It's not all going to be funny rainbows comedy. I would love if it could be that, but I also think this stuff is important because I am human. I experience all emotions, and I want to be as real as possible on this podcast and sharing all of that because that's part of my journey, and that's a part of all of our journeys. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sitting this through. I hope some of it was helpful. If you have any questions about anything, always reach out to me. I love getting texts from you guys letting me know that you listen and that like some of it resonates with you. So love that. I'm really upping up my social media game. So make sure you're following the Be Fly Effect podcast on Instagram for clips, quotes about the show. I'm really trying to like build that presence because some of the work that I'm doing with Socially Evolved is like teaching me like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm not doing it for myself and my own passion. So trying to be more intentional with that. And then I just bought this new camera is what you're seeing this on. I can't believe I didn't even start with that. This is a new camera, so hopefully the quality is better. If not, wow, that was a waste of money. But I will be doing a lot more vlogs. It's going to be just another perspective of my life on YouTube. You can follow me at Liana Hauser on YouTube. I can also link it below. And that's going to be my vlog channel where I just show you a lot more of the day-to-day stuff. Behind the scenes of the podcast and my business and kind of how that works. And then a lot of that will feed into the podcast as well. So it's just a different way to grow with me. So if you're into that, go follow me there as well and subscribe. If you're not subscribed to this podcast already, first of all, what are you doing? We've already had this conversation, okay? We already talked about this. You should already be subscribed on every single thing. So please do that. Please do that. And love you. Live your best life, baby. See you later. Bye.